All right. Hello, hello. I think it's all working. I believe. I think. All right, YouTube, can you let me know if it's all going? That would be great. Tomoki, what's going on, man? Cool, cool, cool. All right. So today I want to do a little bit of a hybrid. I want to do a bit of sculpting and a little bit of painting and drawing. I've also set up, in case we need it, I don't know if we will, but I want to try it anyway. Set up traditional, traditional time, right? So if I have anything that I can demonstrate traditionally, because I want to get my practice in as well, right? And when do I do most of my drawing? Right now. So this is a good opportunity to do that. If it comes up. Back to the Stone Age, that's it, Cosmic. Okay. So I think we need to find some more space, or we need to make some space. Move old mate Fancy Pants over there. All right, we've got enough. So I've got this lady here. We're going to do a quick little concept. Then we're going to whack it into Blender, right? And then we might whip it back into Photoshop and painting if we light it in a certain way. I don't know. We'll see how it all shakes out. Do you find yourself mentally trying to hit Control Z when you draw on paper? I think I maybe done it once. I think my whole, I think very different with I'm a lot not slower, I guess more thought out, I guess, with each stroke when I'm in the old traditional mode. Okay, so I like this lady's hair shape. All right, because we've got this big shape here to begin with. We can exaggerate it to be even smaller, sort of like a body to hair ratio. I don't have too much of an idea stylization wise, but we can play maybe a bit of a longer face. I don't know. Just get something down where we can play. Whoa. Right now, New York City going crazy by winning the NBA Finals and FIFA happening at the same time. I bet. It'll be an amazing spot to be in. Mm-hmm. Australia versus US. I may or may not stay up to watch it. I don't know. Because I don't really follow soccer to begin with. But, oh my God. Hold the phone, and we're back. So it's kind of like, no, I can take it or leave it, but if I've got a few of my mates, oh, you're fucking kidding me. Hold on. Scratch discs are full, apparently. Oh, fuck me. Hold on. I just got to clean all my cache. That should give me a little bit more room. But for now, let's just chat then. Because I can't do anything. I can't draw a freaking line because Photoshop tells me. Oh, here we go. And we're back. All right, I'll just let the cache clean for now. Ooh la la. SST Vocal Coach. Hey Ben, your Procreate tutorial gave me one of my most liked works on Insta. Fantastic. It was the Spaceman. I turned it into a Jean Grey piece. Just wanted to say thanks again. Thanks so much for popping in. That's fantastic. Very cool. That was a fun one to record at the Proco offices. Randy, how you doing? I'm well, I'm well. Just waiting for some cache to clear because I've been doing a lot of video editing. And I tell you what, if you use DaVinci Resolve, there is a folder that is called Cache Clip. And that bad boy, that can fill up hundreds of gig super fast. All right, so just keep an eye out for that if you're working in DaVinci and all of a sudden your computer stops working because you didn't expect 200 gigs of whatever just to be not there. So yeah, just keep an eye out for that because that can be a pain in the tuchus, I tell you what. Q to Hugh, what's going on? Kentas, welcome. Silly, hey Ben, going to be following along to see what I can learn from your process. Beautiful, welcome. Predominantly for rendering, but I can't wait to see what else I can learn. Fan-tastic. Great to have you. I don't use it. Is it available on Windows? I'm pretty sure it is. How's Drea going? Drea's going fantastic. Going really, really well. Recently added assignment uploads and tightened up the Discord integration, which is going to be nice. Also getting video encoding working smoothly. So all those little issues that you saw with like out of sync audio and that sort of stuff, that's being fixed as we speak. The Messiah Hyben assignment links aren't working at the moment. Oh, assignment links aren't working. Okay, yep. All right, I know exactly. Yeah, I'll fix those after stream as soon as I hop off. Because we changed the whole URL structure, which would have made the other ones not work. Yep. Know exactly what's going on there. Thank you, the Messiah. Also, I'm joining you while working on my profile for Art Fight. This year's themes just got announced. What's Art Fight again? I feel like you or someone else may have told me before. So here I'm playing around with just like the placement of the features, not worrying about any of the rendering or anything like that, because that's just going to take us all away from what matters the most, and it's the structure of everything. Now she looks, just with these little things, looks like a little gremlin at the moment, so let's not put that there. Well, I mean, we could do that if we want. Put more of just a subtle indication. Now she's kind of looking down, right? It really depends on if we want to follow that in the reference. I don't know. I kind of want to give her ears just so I know what's going on. Yeah, things are workable here at the moment, but I've got a lot of stuff going on the computer. So it's workable, not as bad as it has been in the past, but the old lag is definitely there. I'm streaming in 2K versus 1080, I think, because I want a little bit of that extra resolution. Ah, Lulu. How you doing? Welcome. Oh, what is that? Sorry if the music, I'm trying to skip my music, but it keeps taking over. Alright, so a little bit of a smile. There's a very specific lip shape here, which we can mess around with, right? For sure. Sketchy, what's going on? With 64 gigs of RAM, you should be able to stream in whatever resolution you want without any lag. You would think so. But multi-streaming, I've got 3 screens. I've got Photoshop, which is hungry. I've got Blender open. Like, I think I'm pushing it, but I'm sure it's I'm doing something wrong for sure. That's a lot. Still never miss an opportunity to blame Apple or Adobe. That's what I'm saying, Sketchy. Randy, it's an event happening during the whole month of July, where usually 2 teams compete by drawing the participants' original characters. The more drawing such characters drawn, the more points for the team. Interesting. So it's a volume game. So you could just do tiny little thumbnails. All right, so I'm really, what I'd also like to do is maybe get some like style reference to get some. I know I seldom do that on stream, but in my personal way. Also, I'll give you guys a sneak preview of something I've been working on. Oh Christ! All right, I'm going to be opening up Rebel. So everyone just cross your fingers that this doesn't just explode everything. Okay. I'll give you a little sneak preview of what I've been working on. If it wants to load. Yeah. It's just been my little personal work. Oh God, she's struggling. She is struggling. But yeah. trying to get a little bit of texture in there, you know, and really like paint it like I would paint it traditionally in a way. So this has been fun just to mess around with, and even like the composition, trying to figure that out, and the perspective of the reflection of everything, and just to make it sit right. But yeah, I'll give you a little sneak preview. The wee little wisps of hair, I know, I had to have backlighting. You got to have something. I mean, this is a perfect opportunity. I didn't even realize this when I was drawing it, but painting it, when I knew the light was going to be behind, I was like, oh la la, I've got such a good opportunity for a bit of the old subsurface. I was quite happy with that. Howdy Ben, I've got to play some D&D Friday after 6 years of not being able to play in earnest. Nice one. It was awesome to play with my peeps. Beautiful. Got some concepts brewing for my little goblin PC. Name's Oki. Very cool. You could, yes. But you also get more points for more refined. Okay, cool. So you can't just use that loophole. I've also started to go in full production swing of plain Janes in prep for Lightbox. Most of them are primed. They look really cool, actually, like all lined up. So I've been knocking a lot of them out. All the process is mostly locked in. I've got a couple of loose ends to tie up. I did Art Fight a few years ago. It's good for building up speed and doing commissions of characters that you aren't familiar with. That's true. You know, like, I always say I want to do stuff. It's like, oh, I'd love to do just stuff like that. I've never done like a challenge, like a community challenge of other people's communities. I've never done any of that. I'm pretty sure I must be missing out. Thanks, Tomoki. Hi, I'm a beginner. Khalil, do you think it would be a good idea for me to study realistic anatomy for a while before moving on to stylization? If so, for how long? There's never going to be a specific amount of time. I think that is useless to be like, okay, on July 15th, now I'm going to swap over to stylized stuff. You know what I mean? That's kind of, it's so fuzzy. Some people are going to pick it up real quick. Other people are going to take a little bit longer, but it doesn't matter how long it takes as long as you're having fun with it. All right. 2, I think that you should do them in tandem. Keep the fun with both of them. All right. I don't feel like it's almost like you got to eat your veggies first before you have dessert. If you enjoy the stylized stuff, go back and forth. Spend a little bit of time on realistic anatomy and then see if you can stylize that in the same session if you want, you know? So for learning this stuff, there's a lot of technique, there's a lot of concepts to grasp, but I think the practice has a lot of wiggle room. And I think that personally, the fun and interest part of practice is oftentimes left out, because that's going to help get you through the times that you're very, very frustrated. Because you're much more likely to keep going with something that you're interested in doing. Because I say this from experience, right? I used to think that I did realism for a very long time, which was fine, not poo-pooing realism, whatever. It's cool. But I felt like I had to do that to then do stylized stuff. And as I've gotten a little better at the stylized stuff, it helps a 1,000,000%, right? But it's not the be all and end all, and I didn't have to like not do one before I do the other, if that makes sense. You know, Just speaking from experience. Have fun with it. That's what you got to do. Because you will get frustrated, I tell you what. Especially as a beginner. And even now I get frustrated, you know. I got frustrated with that guy that I just showed that I'm working on. You get frustrated about different things sometimes. Like being able to render something like an eye is, I don't have to think too much about that, but then new problems come up is like, okay, what expression is going to be best? What's the composition look like? Blah, 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 blah. So there's always a level of frustration or challenge, right? I'm studying elbow anatomy for 3D characters right now. I love me a good elbow. A good knee joint and a good elbow joint. I don't know, something about it. I can't remember it half the time. I've got to like look at myself sometimes to be like, all right, which way does this little bone stick out? Like like what? Like if you look at an elbow joint from the back, you got to like remember that, yeah, this is the wrench, the upper arm, and the lower arm is the knot wrench and the hingy bit, and that's your funny bone. I gotta like pause for a minute whenever I do that. Interesting. I've never been given that tip before. It really seems to make me make study more enjoyable that way. Thank you very much. Oh, of course. Have fun with it. There is a lot to discover. Enjoy yourself. And welcome. To what? I don't know, but just like welcome. If you said you're a beginner and you like this sort of stuff, welcome. There are way more resources for knee anatomy. That's true. I agree, Cosmic. I just stare at people's elbows in public all the time. Me too. Gotta be careful with that, mate. The worst is if I'm like deep in study of like a particular piece of it, say like the deltoid or something, right? And I'm trying to like figure out where the three heads like insert into the tricep and blah, 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 blah. And then you're at the gym and then you just like zone out and start looking at people. You got to be careful with that. You got to do a sneaky one. You got to be like, or like look through them as if it's like in. Or you just own it completely and just stare them down. And then if they say something, act crazy. So there's a tiny bit of a smile here. Now this is one of the hardest parts, particularly as a beginner. This, I always talk about it, but the eye socket, it has got so much nuance to it. I'm not talking anatomy here. I'm talking just like the simple shape of it. All right, especially looking at it front on, you don't quite get the full picture. Because if we were to, maybe, well, we've got to do this anyway, so we might as well do a little sketch. You know what? I'm going to use this opportunity. Let's try this. Boom. Okay. Is this in focus? I think so. Okay. So when we're looking at this Whoa, this is trippy because I'm looking at the monitor and it's almost like I'm working in Photoshop, but traditionally. Like I can draw with pretty low latency. Whoa. I quite like this actually. So we got to figure out that mouth shape. This is probably too realistic here. But this eye socket, the depth of the eye socket, right? I like to think about where the eye's sitting. You know, how deep it is in the head. But this, like, in here, used to give me so much, still does if I'm honest. It used to give me so much bloody troubles. The depth of this, because it's not just, because you've got some simplifications of it, right? You've got the blocky square dude that comes out like this. You've seen this probably. And that's where the eye socket is. But it's not. It's a good simplification, but it's almost too simplified for its own good because it doesn't come straight back. There's like a back and a curve and an outwardsness. That makes no sense. Instead of this being like straight, it's more of like a trapezius shape that comes out, right? And this just having like that little bit of a trapezius shape, right? And then you imagine the nose, eye socket in here, blah, 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 blah. Just this little bit of a trapezius can do weird tricks on you with the head angle, particularly if you're like turning the head here. Because if this was completely square and we're at this 3/4 view, it's going to be pretty straightforward, right? It's like an open box and it's like, okay, this is going to pretty much match this. But as soon as we move that in, is going to be very exaggerated, but just like the trapezius here, inwards, right? What you think that this angle should be is not, right? It's going to be almost straight up and down here. If we were to look at this on like a front view, right? Anyway, gone off on a little tangent here, but just something to keep in mind is like the angles. And if we were to also like look at the top down, all right? And we imagine like the ears here, right? Nose there. It's going to be most of the time. Sometimes not. Sometimes it's very, very little. But a lot of the time you're going to get this like up, 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 up. So it's a lot more complex of a shape than I used to realize. So go and study the eye sockets and that's going to be time well spent, I reckon. Anyway, that was fun. I like that. Just testing out different ways. Doesn't matter how many times I draw them, I still have to look at my own hands to find out which direction. You and me both. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. That's fine. You got to do what you got to do. When you get kicked out of the gym for staring, they're never going to believe it was for shoulder anatomy studies. Unless you bring a sketchbook and it looks like you're writing down your sets and reps. He's like, no, look, seriously. So you could do that as well. But at that point, people would just get pissed off at you if you're just sitting on the bench drawing. Fahar, how you doing? Candace, good to see ya. I've been seeing a lot of your posts. You've been pumping the content. It's inspiring. Really enjoying seeing the brushwork in your new paintings. It's inspired me to experiment, with texture brushes as well. Beautiful. Tip of the tongue, teeth in the lips. Form manipulation is a never-ending rabbit hole. Very true. It's my favorite thing because there's always something to learn. It's never going to be ending because there's all different types of people, of forms, of objects, of everything. It never ends. All right, let's see. Also, I think this week I'm going to start recording some of the process of making the plain Janes as well. I do wonder if it's worth streaming one of them. I don't know how that'll go. Maybe airbrush it. I got to figure out what, because I kind of like bounce back and forth between certain stations, you know, in the garage, because I'm playing around with, if you know, I've been doing like a deep dive. I'm bouncing around all over the place. I've been doing a deep dive on, oh, you know what? Some of the lag was bloody smoothing, I bet. Hey, that feels so much better. Idiot. Head cam's not a bad idea, Lulu. Not a bad idea at all. I've been doing a deep dive on like Disney maquettes. I don't know if you guys have seen those ones, the old like Tarzan, Incredibles. You probably have on Pinterest for sure. But if you go onto a place called Heritage Auctions, I mean, some of these, like if you wanted the Mr. Incredible maquette, it would cost you like 18 grand. So they're pricey. But what I was looking more so for was, because of the auction house has to take really high resolution photos, and I was looking at seeing how they actually did, like, sculpted the thing, right? And did they just whack a bit of primer on it? Did they do everything? And there's sort of like a transition I've seen from the old school ones, from like the Tarzan days, into more of like the transition into the Incredibles. But what they'll sometimes do is they'll actually have the whole thing gray, right? The whole thing's gray, but then they'll actually paint the eyes like still grayscale, but they'll do darker eyes on top of the eyes. So it's not just all like a flat one material kind of thing. And that adds so much to it. So I'm toying with doing that with the old plain Janes. I'm not 100% sure. And also, this is where, going back to traditional mode, hold on, hold the phone. It's where I stole the idea for this. If you look at the eye on this sculpt, so this is Sculpey. For those that haven't heard me talk about one of my favorite, oh la la, clays. So I've seen this on Disney ones as well, where they'll actually have a hard eye that's a different color, and then they'll add like that clay as the dark of the eye, which really like just makes it, versus it all being the one material. I don't know. I thought it was interesting. Also, I don't. Same with this one. So that's like half of where. Same sort of deal. This is the material. I want to figure out in Blender how I would what you call it, how I would get this material, Chavant. So this is different than Sculpey. It was crazy back in the day where they would draw the topology on the physical model's first scans and scan. I love that. I really, really love that. I almost want to do a special edition of Plain Jane's with that kind of look to it, where it's like all gridded out on the plain side. Yeah. I almost want to recreate all the Disney maquettes that I can't afford and sculpt them myself. Just to have as reference, you know? I could just like whack on the movies, really study them. Because I've always wanted one. I've wanted not just one, I wanted bloody all of them. Because there's always something appealing, even as a young kid. Whenever you'd see like, just see them, I don't know, in like a really short behind the scenes, whatever, on TV, I was like, oh man. But also, if you look at them up close, they're not as detailed, some of them, as you would expect. What's your favorite Disney movie? Oh, I don't know. I've got to go old school, like just from a pure nostalgia. It's got to be Toy Story. Like, I don't think there's any beating that, just from the feeling I get from thinking back of how many times I watched that and just, I don't know, and then realizing that, oh, Pixar is that's a job people do. Interesting. And it's like very tied to my art. Not development, I guess, because I didn't do a whole lot of drawing that kind of stuff, but just knowing that that was a thing. And then it got me into thinking, oh, I'd love to work at Pixar and blah, blah, blah when I was younger. Probably, I don't know, yeah, Toy Story. Incredibles was sick, though. I really enjoy the aesthetic of Art Deco. And the Incredibles had a lot of that, which was like a really cool little mashup. Toy Story 5 is coming out soon. I know, I haven't even seen Toy Story 4, if I'm honest. I'm talking original. Toy Story 1 and 2. Because they came out pretty close after one another, I think. Okay, we've got something going here. We're dipping a little bit into too much of the realism, maybe? I want to stylize it a little bit more before we whack into Blender. For this, I think, let's open up another tab. And let's try Pinterest again, and hopefully this doesn't just churn up all my RAM. What's the favorite part of the drawing process? I don't know, different parts of it, right? Let's go stream start, because I've got a Pinterest board that you can find on my Pinterest of like style reference that I've started to pump a bunch into, right? So we can start to look at how other artists solve different problems. So we don't have, it helps me get out of my norm, you know? Like it helps, and hopefully, and we'll always try and find the artist. If we do use some, you know, I've seen this paint just as a little humble brag. Well, not even a humble brag, I'm bragging straight up. I've seen this painting in real life. The real one. Oh, does it make me want to go down to the art store and get some oil paints and just shut myself in a room for like 6 months. What am I looking for? I'm looking for cleaner lines. I'm looking for more exaggeration. We could also come here. What happens if we just play with the face shape? I don't like doing this with features a lot of the time on, because it just like, it distorts the features and it kind of removes any perspective that we've thought out, you know. But I don't mind like a thinner, because we've got such a wide hair, we can go thinner here. Maybe try a bit of that. All right, so now I just got to erase the eyes because they make 0 sense. Same as the lips. So now we've got to fit everything within this shape. I felt like I had such a good finish with number 3 and should have just ended it there, but the effects in 4 were incredible. I've got to check it out then. How do you keep your focus on overall shapes instead of the details when doing studies like this? Half the time I get pulled away by details and it turned out less expressive than I wanted. Doing exactly this. Erasing. Don't be afraid to erase and just throw away hours of work. I mean, that's a bit of an exaggeration. It wasn't hours of work, but just like recognizing that it's less expressive than you want and then going back and trying again. You know, so if we come back to our original reference, but you kind of had, I can't expect it to be more expressive if we're keeping so close to this reference, right? So we've got to maybe add a little bit of spice in ourselves. Now, also, stylized doesn't mean always really big eyes. Right, maybe we actually make the lips. Try around, like play around with proportions. You know, because one thing I saw here, very subtly, but that bottom lip, there's like a curl under that top lip, right? And that bottom lip kind of matches the bottom part of that curl. The curl. So there's going to be a little bit of that action going on. If we want to keep that, we don't have to. And that bottom lip's kind of going to meet there. And maybe skinny that face out a little bit. All future Toy Story installments must feature Woody and the gang in a zombie apocalypse after the AI, the most broken toy ever, takes over. That's not a bad idea. All right, now we've got that really tall eyebrows here. Do we add a little bit of expression in here? Maybe. I do love a good down eyebrow and up eyebrow. It's like a cheat code for like just making something look more expressive. I use it all the time, probably to my detriment. Also, I've been doing a lot of research into stop motion animation puppets because I eventually, want to do this. Where is it? Yeah. I want to make my own version of this where you can click on and off the faces. And that's going to be a YouTube video, I reckon, like the whole process. So you can like clip on the eyes and the mouth so they both go. But one thing that's what I was going to talk about here is you'll notice a lot of these characters, you can see it in 3D. What you call it? 3D animation as well. As the eyes aren't actually spheres. They're like a very small slice of a sphere. And that's how you can get that really subtle curvature of the eye to get a different look. Because if you try to like sphere it out, like really sphere it, it'll look too bulbous. And that's one thing that I found when I was getting into sculpting, is a lot of these are just like really, really subtle arcs. Right? Even here you'll probably see on this video. This one isn't though. So it really depends on the character, right? But what's happening is that the lid is dictating how much of that sphere arc you're seeing as well. So there's that. Anyway, I'm feeling very tangenty today. Forgiveness, please. Nice, you should check out the stop motion game Out of Worlds. Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about. I haven't played the game, but I've seen all the behind the scenes. We want it to look down at us, maybe. Now the nose placement, up or down, is going to give you a very different look. Right? Now she looks like someone from Whoville. And then you could make it look like someone completely different. So finding that placement of the nose as well, I found is really, really important. More more tangents. I'm learning so much. Okay, as long as they don't annoy you. Fat Cappy, what's going on, my friend? Welcome. Laser. Oh, Lars Eriksson. My apologies. Hello. I was wondering how you balance thinking about shape versus form, especially when drawing from reference. Shape is form, form is shape, babe. Same. It kind of comes down into like 2D and 3D thinking, I guess. I've talked about this a lot, so for those that are in chat, my apologies if you sound like a drip and tap. But for example here, this is the 2D. This is the shape, right? And I kind of swap between the two. So if I was to shape this up, like, okay, big shape here, triangle. All right, smaller shape here, like diamondy sort of whatever shape, yeah? But as soon as I start doing stuff like, particularly on the nose, right? I can shape the nose. I can be in 2D thinking with the nose here. But as soon as I start doing this, all right, I've added an edge. I'm in form land, right? As soon as I start doing this, adding things on top of the form, I'm very much in 2D thinking, but then I've got to swap back into, very much in 3D thinking, but I've just as quickly got to be able to swap back into 2D thinking if the overall shape isn't feeling right. So we got to come here if we want to make it a little bit wider, you know. We can mess around with it. Right, and then we can adjust the form go back into 2D here, let's say. Let's say I want this to, no, I don't want to give her a mustache. Let's go here, right? And say I'm thinking about the form of the upper lip here. Let's say I want that nose to sit on top of that upper lip. So I'm going to sort of make it wedge in there almost as if it's a bit of clay that we're just sort of fitting there. Now I'm going in 2D mode. I'm thinking about the overall shape of the nose at the position that we're looking at it, right? Because we've got to think of that as well. Shape is only, particularly with 2D, determined by the direction that we're looking at the thing. All right, so I'm in 2D mode here. Now I'm looking at 3D. Now I'm looking at 3D because these are going to be tilted a little bit because they're at an angle, right? They might even be going back in space. So they back this way a little bit, these planes. All right, now it looks like she's got a bloody thing through her nose. Right? The 2D thinking of the lip here, it's just a half a circle. Right, but as soon as I start to think about the center line and how it wraps around, I've kind of gone completely away from the reference now, so we're not even going for any sort of likeness. I'm just playing. Yeah, hopefully that makes sense. Very short, abridged version of what I'm thinking about. What I might do now, we've got something to... Or do we even have something to start with? Get the eyes in there. Right, I think the chin's a little bit like how you're doing, so... A little bit smaller chin. See, it's all a little bit skew-if, which I don't hate. Don't love it, but I don't hate it. No worries. No worries, Lars. We're just being really rough here. Now, sometimes, particularly because we've got a couple of, well, at least I know one beginner in here, if you're still here. Sometimes you'll be able to, well, this is just in my experience. Sometimes I'll be able to see line easier, and sometimes I'll be able to see form and light and dark a lot easier. All right, so what I mean by that is I might not be super clear on how this is going to be finalized until I start adding in a bit of this. You know, the shadow, the value. Sometimes I've come to the realization of this, that it's just sometimes I see form better. Maybe it's why I'm very like super into sculpting, because it kind of by default makes sense. I can understand line, right? But just by default, my internal operating system can make sense of form a lot easier. All right, so don't be afraid to experiment. And I'd always recommend, I've said this a few times, like pick up some clay, or even just pick up bloody not Procreate. Oh, you can Procreate on the iPad's fine. But Nomad Sculpt on the iPad, or you know. Bless you, man. Okay. I mean, I'm not a massive fan of how this is going at the moment, but if we start playing around with some of this shape here, maybe it's going to make more sense. It's all like kind of skew-if That's what's throwing me off, I think. I'd like to see a little bit of the ears, potentially, in my version. Thank you, Tamaki. Thank you, Lulu. Huffs, how you doing? Not a fan of the eyes. So maybe this is an opportunity, off the back of saying all that, maybe we just jump into Blender and see what we can start mushing around. Because yeah, I'm not a fan of how these eyes are sitting. And it's all about like, I can almost see her being like this kind of character as well for some reason. I think I've been watching stop motion, or not stop motion, but like the stop motion animation. Yeah, no, it is stop motion. That kind of vibe is influencing me a little bit. The new artist in town, welcome back. How you doing? Great to have you. I do like a very closed lid, as if they're pissed off. I've been doing that a lot lately, so why not continue the trend? Taking a serious 5 to 7 years of your life. Adrian Kim Draws. Taking a serious 5 to 7 years of your life. Blah, blah, blah. Take two. Taking a serious 5 to 7 years of your life of dedicated art study. Would this field still be a place to make any money, or do you think that pursuing art seriously as a career is for the rich only? Well, I can tell you right now, I'm not rich. And it's such a broad, like it's a really broad question, because what I'm doing is a micro atomic sliver of what's possible career wise in art, you know? So I don't think it's a path that has like a clear at least for me, it's not been like a clear, okay, do this now. Because I mean, I've got different aspects to it, right? I sell my artwork. I teach. And I do the social media stuff, which is the marketing side of it as well, right? So that's one way you can slice it. You can go the fine art route. Like, it's so many different ways you could work for studios. You can, it all depends on what you want to do. So it's like a super broad question, you know. The new artist in town. The mirror piece you posted. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. Ben, if you were working a 9-to-5 job, how would you balance that with personal projects? I'm at the point where I can spend about an hour a week on my own projects. I would hesitate to say without seeing your schedule, whether you have more than an hour. It's just what you're prioritizing to put onto personal projects, potentially. Unless you got the 9-to-5 and then you're doing freelance on the side, then it's like, all right, fair enough. But it's all about priorities. I'm not talking about burning yourself out and like getting 3 hours of sleep either. It'll focus you, definitely. Like what's the biggest bang for your buck? What's the the signal to noise ratio on what's going to get you closer to whatever the goal is that you're trying to achieve, you know? You're not going to be spending that hour perusing Pinterest. Well, I'd hope not. You know, at that point when you've got such a limited amount of time, preparation is going to be key and clarity is going to be key. What is the goal for this session and how am I going to execute what I need to get done within this amount of time? You've also got the benefit, if you've only got that amount of time, it's the Parkinson's law of like the activity will fit, the time to take, the time that an activity will take will fit the time that is allotted for it. You know, if you've only got an hour, then you've got to get that thing done in an hour. If you had a week, maybe it would sort of expand out into a week's worth of time, you know? Hustle artist is greater than a starving artist, but a hustle artist can also very quickly become a burnt out artist with health issues because you're not getting enough sleep, you know? So you got to be smart about it. Yeah, Tomoki, honestly, it could be an overthinking thing. Oftentimes it's, what's the goal? Like, what's the outcome? What do you want? I always also try and ask myself, what would I need to do? Say I've like nailed down a project that I'm working on, right? And I've got a goal, I've got a plan. What would it look like? And let's say I've estimated it's going to take me 6 months to get done, right? Then I go through the thought experiment of what would I need to do to make it, like gun to my head, what would I need to do to make it work to be done in a month? And oftentimes I can come up with a lot of ways and ideas to cut down a lot of the bullshit essentially of what's not necessary. I mean, I've utilized that with the plain Janes this year, right? And I've gotten it to a point where I was initially thinking that, okay, new molds, new process, whole new skull portion of it, you know what I mean? It's going to take like another however long. We're in the middle of the year and I'm almost completed with them because I cut out a lot of the unnecessary. Maybe I have to not worry about doing everything myself. What can you outsource? I'm outsourcing a lot of like the printing of the boxes, you know? That'll take away like a month of my time probably. Maybe not a month. Maybe solid like a week or two of me re-screen printing everything, burning in all the screens, getting the ink because the ink's probably dried out from last year. All right. Getting different boxes because now I've got different box sizes, making sure all the sizing's done. I'll probably have to buy new screens because some of them have probably broken or whatever. You know what I mean? So that just adds a whole bunch of fluff where it's like, all right, where is the value that I'm giving to people? Do I want to spend more time on the bloody box? Which is still important. But it's like, look, this isn't the whole part of the business. So I can't spend 24 hours worrying about that and getting everything just so. Maybe for this run, we get the boxes printed, right? Until I'll figure out a more efficient way of doing things. The certificates of the certificates of authenticity. I printed them out myself last year. I think that's where I can not lose any personal touch, because I just, it's just printing, right? I still sign them. I still number them and batch them. Let's get it. Let's pay whatever it is to get my time back to get those printed, and probably in a better quality, to be honest. Right, so it's those little things that add up over time. And for you, because I know a little bit more about your goals without sharing them with everyone, but it's like maybe some of the video editing. You know, I know you're trying to learn some of that. Right, what processes or software or certain things can you get to speed up the first pass of the edit, you know, because oftentimes that's the most tedious part. What can you do there? How can you, because you don't even necessarily have to buy anything. It's more, it could be a process thing. You know, how can we think about the process and the workflow to really cut things down, etc., etc. Off on another tangent there. Can you tell I've been thinking about this stuff a bit? Silly, when you went in and roughly mapped out the shadows with grays, how did you go about mapping out the shapes for them? I struggled with getting clean shapes for my shadows. It's all about understanding the form. Right? I know, quote unquote, but I'm imagining the form here. Right? And I know that there's going to be probably a crease here with the eyelid, and that's going to create this shape in here, which is going to be in shadow if there's a light source coming down from here. That's how I came to that shape. So it's a lot of things stacked on top of one another just to be able to go, okay, yep, let's get some form here and just go boom, under the nose, maybe under the chin. Maybe there's like a cast shadow here, maybe a little bit on the eyes, and get something feeling like that, something feeling more solid fairly quickly. It's all about understanding those forms to begin with. All right, let's take this and let's whack it into Blender, shall we? What's going to be the best way? Probably PureRef, I guess. The new artist in town. I had purchased your first course illustrating a stylized character. It was thank you very much. It was a great learning experience. I even made a piece based on what I learned from that, and it turned out really good. Fantastic. That makes my day, that. Okay, so we've got this here as a starting point. Okay. I really should make my own like base mesh for like faces and stuff, because I do this a lot, or enough where it's starting to see. Here we go, talking about efficiency. I would benefit from just being able to get a base mesh going and start manipulating that, if you know what I mean. Thanks again for breaking it down so well. I'm glad you enjoyed it. That's awesome. Okay. Excuse me. What have I done wrong here? What have I done wrong here? If I go round cube. Okay, now we've got sculpt mode. Interesting, didn't know that. If you don't have a mesh in there, you can't go to sculpt mode. There you go. I do find it fun though to like sort of start. Let's go. This is one of my favorite brushes, the elastic grab. Now, one thing that I sometimes will get caught out on is having that chin out too far. Right? It depends on the character, but oftentimes I'm going to want that chin to sort of tuck back down just in the starting phases. Now I do maybe want a little bit more of that diamond shape there, so we can bring a little bit of that in. What I'm also going to do, add a neck. Rotate, scale on the Z, that'll do. Whoa, skinny, okay. All right, I might do a sneaky little, oh, how can I always have to do this? I always have to go Command A, rotation and scale. Can I do it inside sculpt mode? That's what I want to know. All right, I'd like to just add a neck in here, because that is going to help just with proportions and everything. Thank you, Zilly. Oh, these allergies, man. Never had allergies before this year. Don't know what's going on. I didn't even know what people meant when they said that they got allergies. Now I do, and it sucks. All right, let's even add. Let's do a little rotate on the X 90 degrees. Thank you very much. Oh, nah. Rotate on the X 9. Rotate on the X 90 degrees. Thank you. Scale on the Y. Squash it down. I like to add the ears in. As well, because they do help with proportions and whatnot. Mirror. Okay. Also, the view in Blender is sometimes a little bit too distorted. Right, so I like a little bit of a longer lens, which flattens things out just a tad more. No, object mode, rotation and scale, sculpt mode, get in there, make it smoother. All right, cool. Got something to work with now. Now, what do I want to do? Let's start pulling out some planes. I think that's probably a nice idea. Get a little bit of the plane. We don't want anything too angular necessarily. I think we can start even a nice little scrape tool. So you know what? This is where things are very annoying when it comes to digital sculpting. Because if I wanted to come here with this character and be like, all right, I need to make a plane on the side of the nose here. Razor blade. Make a beautiful little plane. Done. Simple as that, right? Cannot There's nothing simple like that simple. You've got to do this sort of finagling around, get the pinch tool to like get it just so. I know you can do like the slice, but then you've got to angle it just right. I kind of just want to be like shing. I know you can also Boolean stuff, but it's depending on how dense the mesh is, that's going to be an issue as well. So the traditional has a lot of benefits. Ben, are you going to do clay textures on top? Potentially. I haven't done that yet, and I'd love to. Because I want to be able to get this green Chavant color. I love it. It's such a nice texture. So if I can get that look digitally, I almost want to see if I can make it myself. Again, this is my whatever they call it, toxic whatever, is I want to do everything myself where it might not be advantageous to do so. I know how to make it. I should have some shader nose with me. Ooh la la. That'd be awesome, dude. Yeah, the balance with that is the specular. Because I mean, you could do, excuse me, you could do different matte caps. Like you got this kind of green, which is, it's just not the same, you know. All right, so here we're talking, here this is where we can really see those, what should we call it? Eye sockets, that's what they're called, right? Working in all their complexity, right? Because if we are at this angle, they almost look like there's no dip in. As soon as we come here, now there's like a big dip in. So that's all going to be dependent on how deep that tuck in of the sockets are going to be. And also with the sculpting, sometimes it can look great at one angle and then garbage as soon as you turn it this way. So always be, if you are playing around with this, always be playing around with the different angles. You can also, Tomoki, what's that shortcut again to have it all in quadrants? I can't remember what it's called. Hold on, no, don't tell me. I'm gonna figure it out. I think it's view, right? And it's cameras? No. It's viewpoint? No. Navigation? View regions? Fuck. It's in here somewhere. Area. Toggle quad view. Boom. That's how you learn a piece of software. You find it in the menus. Thank you, Tomoki. All right, so this is helpful because we can see the silhouette here as we move it around. Just a little time saver, you know. This is helpful as well because you can't always tell on the front view how close something is. Like we could just go like that. Doesn't look super close here on the front view, but look how much it's sort of gone in the profile view. Now this is where we can get into some trouble with things feeling just a little bit not curved enough sometimes. Again, it's going to depend on the character type and sometimes the ethnicity. But I always tend to accidentally make the lips just sort of like more 2D. So we really want to make sure they're curving inwards, which is going to affect where the cheek is. We can come through and make sure that the lips are feeling how we want them to feel. And use your own face as well for thinking about this stuff. Like, actually, I'll just sometimes just touch the side of my nose because this is, in here, this is a mistake. Well, not a mistake, but it needs to be refined, right? There needs to be more of a plane here with the nose coming down. Scrunch. Oh, well, I thought you were a 2D artist. Both. I certainly am. I love sculpting just as much as I love painting, both digitally and traditionally, and they help one another tremendously. I got to figure out, and this is where, like, if you're into this stylized stuff, whack on like a movie that you like the style of. Pause it, see where they've made decisions. You know, where do they put the jaw here? Because you've got such a, at the moment at least, it's a very thin face, width or lengthwise, like this way. Right, so whereabouts are we showing that jaw? If it's too pronounced, we can get more into that masculine sort of vibe, whereas it's not what I'm going for. So we've got to be maybe more on the subtle side. And where is that ear? You know, and doing it as a separate mesh is nice because it can just, you scooch it back a little bit. It's crazy how many new planes are revealed as fat sags with age. True. All right, so that top lip's in there. I think we can sketch in a little bit of that bottom lip to make it feel a little bit more natural. See, I'm not going super high res at this stage either. I'm kind of keeping it pretty low resolution, which stops me from going in and noodling on the details when there should be no details yet. Now, remember we were talking about that little lip thing? Now we can see it in 3D. We can actually put that in there. So there's going to be a little bit of tuck to that lip, which gives that, on the front view, that sort of look to it, which is a lot to do with likeness as well. All these little types of things. It's all something to keep in mind. Now the grab tool is nice for being very specific about what you want to grab and move around. If you want to mush things in a general sense, use that elastic grab. It's almost like you have to learn 2 different Asari heads depending on the age. Very true. But that's why I think, and this is what my new YouTube video is coming out soon is all about, is understanding the skull. Because that doesn't change much as you age. The solid stuff is the thing that we can hang all of our anatomy understanding off of. The squishy stuff that changes and deforms as we talk and age and all that. All right, I think we can go a little bit more refined here. What I've also found is helpful. Give me a sec, I'm just gonna crease in. See, this is something that's easier digitally than traditionally, is just making nice little creases. Right, and really just throwing in. Because to get this kind of crease, there's a lot of back and forth. You've got to get like a needle, and you've got to get like a piece of plastic to soften it all out. Like it's a whole thing. Still nice when it works in real life, but now we've got this upwards to the bottom lip, whereas here we've got kind of that opposite. So maybe that top lip does come down. Something like this. And the beautiful thing is when you've got a 3D model, then you can light it however you want, and then you can study from it. Oh, you sent a clay material? All right, let's see. Let's check it out. G'day from Mars. Whoa. Welcome. Let's crack open Discord. Also, my apologies on people that contact me through Discord. Yeah. The notifications sometimes don't get through. Okay, so that's downloaded. Safari needs to update their bloody app, I'll tell you what. Okay, clay shader dot blender. All right, let's crack that open. Ah, yes, save. What do we call this lady? Big hair lady. Cool. All right, open this and then we'll copy this, I guess. Oh, I should be able to append, right? Let's have a look at it first. Ooh la la! Tomoki! Look at that. How nice is that? Okay, cool, cool, cool. How do we get it on ours? I think we've got to append a material. Let's try this. Haven't done this in a little while. So let's go back to our big hair lady. Don't save. We go File. Append. Go to our downloads. Mother fuck. Where did it go? Where? Oh my god. Okay, file. Try that again. Append. Where? You're shitting me. What if I go like, I don't know. Open. Where is that? I don't know where the... I must be an absolute idiot because all I have is technical issues. It's got to be a me. Like, if it has to be a me issue. For sure. How do I reset? Maybe I've got to reset some window center. Oh, there we go. Found it. Fucking hell. All right. Let's try it one more time. File, append. Oh, it's because I take it to the other screen. All right. I don't think there's anything that I shouldn't share in my downloads folder. Append. Downloads. Clay shader. Append. Material. Material. And then do we make this, this one here, we come to hopefully, it is not the same, is it? Oh, sorry, you're giving me instructions. Go, shader. All right, let's have a look. So what's going on here? So we got fingerprints, but fingerprints aren't showing up. Is that because it's not high enough resolution? You can drag and drop files into Blender. It will give you an option to append. Oh, sick. All right. Well, that's would have been good to know 2 minutes ago. All right. I feel like we don't have access. It is because too much polygons. All right. Oh, too much polygons? Too many polygons or too little? Maybe if we whack a little bit of a multi-resolution modifier, is that going to do anything for us? Is that just going to... No. All right. I'm going to worry about it right now. The important thing at the moment is this sculpt. But thank you for that. I'll have a play around. Were we? Go back to that. Nice. I like this. Is quite nice actually. The green color. Change the text to map. Okay. Texture mapping. Texture mapping. Is this what? Is that right? Still nada. Oh, and instead of UV, you can click generated. Okay. Boom. Boom. Ew. And then I think, yeah, there'll be some like scaling issues. All right, cool, cool, cool. I'll have a play around with it, but thank you guys. Thank you, Tomoki. Oh, it's like more of like a neutral sort of deal. Cool. All right, I can have a play around that. Sorry, texture coordinate, change the Y to object. Wire, 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 wire. Okay. And this is where I got to play around with the scale, right? Then I got to, yeah, change location, rotation, scale. Uh-huh. Yeah, there's got to be some mapping thing when, yeah, just coming into the, like here, it just stretches it out like crazy. There might be like a project or something. I'm sure there's something like that. Okay, cool. Thank you, though. We shall continue with the sculpt. You can change the X and Y set. Yep. Let's go back to... Where was it? Area. Toggle quad view. All right, let's get back. Get back to where we were. Then get rid of the object you added. Here. Nah, it's still stretchy. That's all right, because it's nice on here. We would want to scale that up. Whoa, really large. Okay, back we get. Sculpt's not finished. Might even do a quick UV at the end. We'll see how we go. Okay, tangents. Yeah, worth a try. Appreciate it, Cosmic. Okay. Now, what I was saying is one thing I do like to do sometimes is just going to draw on the matte cap. No. I think I got to go. No. Oh, maybe because it was white. Hello. Okay. So this is a good way just to get a quick feel instead of doing like a ton of sculpting. Just to see where things are fitting, particularly if you're doing like a more stylized thing from a concept, right? All right, so the eyes are looking very, very, way more drippy than they should be, right? Because we're following along the geometry. So what we might have to do is round out these eyes a little bit more. So Mikey, you found out, the music's turned off. There we go. You figured out how to erase, didn't you? Well, this is where we can use our little drawing. looks looking pretty average at the moment, but we'll get there. You can like add the geometry. All right, yeah, the vertex paint. Looks like an Easter Island statue. It does at the moment, and they often always do. Okay, let's get some crease drawing going so we can get some semblance of an eye socket that makes sense. Now, this needs to be pushed in a lot. Better-ish. Better. I even think the lips could be up a lot more. Now, just like if you get a bad haircut, it can change the whole way that you, just the whole vibe of you. The same goes here. So if we get, we can just start with the UV sphere. We can even, there we go, there's the hair. Sculpt mode. That's the shape we're after. It's just crazy right now. I kind of want to make it like massive. It's just stupid. Now we need the top of the hair to sort of sit in a way where there is an actual hairline. And this is going to inform a lot of the. Can we change the view even more? Yeah, because it's 50. That's why it was looking a bit distorted. See that chin, way too big. I see that clearly now. Because you scaled the object along the z-axis and haven't applied the scale yet. Texture is stretched, but I don't want you to go down a tangent. Appreciate it, Cosmic. I really like how this is already smooth and defined. Yeah, not a bit defined, but I appreciate it. Yeah, the smoothness I can agree with, yeah. And then you can sort of swap back and forth between flat and smooth shading. I tend to sit in flat shading for quite a while. I couldn't tell you why, if I'm honest. You see how the vertex paint helps me out a lot with a little bit of the likeness. Let's get a bit of that expression going. Now, the eyelashes, they're going to be down a lot this way, which is how we've got our character. So we want to, well, kind of want to soften a lot of this up. It's a little bit too harsh. Maybe. Now this neck here. Lana, I'm in flow and I'm loving it. How you doing? Ah, what time's it over there? Oh, I'm sorry to hear it. 11:21 on the East Coast. All right, this is where I think we can erase. Somehow I think we just go white and it gets rid of it. Yep. We can start sculpting in some of those details. All right, let's have a look here. I think maybe the eyes are going to be a bit larger potentially. Because again, what we were talking about at the beginning of the stream, what looks like something front on in 2D can look something something very different, particularly this eye socket, right? So how far back this has to go for the eyes to be that wide. Got to take that into account. And then also not making them as bulbous. All right, we're only taking a sliver of a sphere, maybe not even a sphere, remember? So we can maybe even flatten out that a little bit. And then we can use, oh, do we model it or do we just sculpt it? Bugger it. And then I might add just a slight little bit of volume to that upper lid because it is something that's on top of the eyeball. If I was doing this proper, I'd probably model all this, but just for sculpting, it's fine. Then come in here a little, I mean, we could vertex paint that, or we can just do this. So this is what I'm talking about though, with like the maquettes. If they're all in one color, sometimes, let's just vertex paint it just because it was what we were talking about before. They would just come through and do a like a semi-detailed eye, which will just make it pop versus doing the singular. It's a fine line between boss-eyed and looking front on. All right, so we slowly refined it. I think we can refine a little bit of the brow ridge now. After 53 years, far out, that's why everyone's going nuts. don't put that out there, Tomoki in the internet. I like this little crease. It's just a line here, but just like that little crease. Like here. By the way, for DaVinci cache issues, have you tried playback, delete render cache? No, I haven't. Oh, maybe I have actually. All right, we can do a couple of things here. Sculpt mode. I think we can maybe even angle the nose back just a tad. Which we're going to have to do a little bit of this if we're going to make that fit. Now we've got to, as we've refined more of this, let's go down to the lips. This profile is looking okay. Let's see if we can simplify all of this. Right, and depending on the stylization, whether you want to add the creases here, which sometimes happens, this is going to age people sometimes, this crease here, or it is part of their likeness as well. Haven't got it here, so I might leave it out or just do a very, very subtle, because that's that connection point of the cheek into the sort of like muzzle of the mouth. All right, and then we've got that little sort of thing here, but in 3D. So we're understanding it from all angles. And then we can come through and connect that bottom lip. Ah, why's the music stopped? There we go. We're at that type of time of the stream where we're just in flow. We're not doing too much talking. We're just trying to get to a somewhat okay result that we're happy with. This could be a point where we can come back to our hair just to look at it. So completely different character, like really, we wasn't going for likeness. It's actually quite, I might want to take it back a little bit. It actually sits up a little bit more. I'll probably do some particle stuff if I was to do this properly. So we can use the inflate brush. Is that going to do anything for us? A little bit. But we want it sort of like this. Nah, I don't like that really. We do it more like this at the bottom because it's like the end of the curls, right? But at the top it's going to be a little bit straighter. And we could, if we wanted to, oh, there's a spiral tool. Oh, there's a spiral tool. How do I do a spiral again? No. Oh, no, there's a way to do it. Yeah. Curve spiral. Oh, okay. We can do that quickly. Oh, because it's a curve. That's right. Yeah, rings a little bell. Curve. No, add a curve. Bezier. Maybe, oh, I don't know. It's called add curve. Okay. No, that's all right. I'll just sculpt it. Looks like a little croissant. Thank you, Lulu. Oh, nice one, Willio. Unfortunately, I didn't know who this was. This is just a Pinterest grab, but cool. This is mainly I'm using a hair for reference. Not so much the character herself. Can't hear any music. Why can't you hear any music? Might be a you issue. Is that any better? All right, so I'm doing this. This is the equivalent of working on a single layer and building up color variation, which is pretty tricky, but gets a decent result. Catch you later, Lana. Hopefully you have a good sleep tonight. It's not the highest resolution, so we can only work with what we've got. Can you help with a neutral eye? What are we talking about? How so? Alejandro, how you doing? So I've just turned off symmetry here so I can play around with the eye position. My understanding is the bottom lid touches the iris and the top lid covers some of the iris. Most of the time. I mean, her eyes are pretty neutral, so you can sort of see that. More of the top half is covered by the top lid. Do a cheeky little bit of non-symmetry. I remember though that everything, I could do it as a, what you call it? A shape key. So that I don't lose the other. Brow. I'm going to go down a little bit. And this one can maybe come up. And the eyes look not great yet. Even if we do a cheeky little. we can just crease it. It's like you change the lid a tiny bit and you get a totally different, 100%. It's very, like, it is very, very subtle, the changes that you have to make, that you can make to get like a whole different expression. Because that's what we're like tuned to understand, right? Is those subtle micro expressions. A little bit too much going on there. I would like to have this lid up a little bit, this bottom lid. So all these little subtleties, if something moves, the muscles move, these muscles pull back. Right, and this is going to then, we could do a little bit of an inflate. Along here, maybe, it's got to be super subtle though, because it's not like an extreme expression. Right, and I think if I've done it right, we can go between, it's weird going from neutral to like, that, it works. Maybe this even gets pulled this way a little bit. So the whole mouth is like, I'm a super fan of the overall face character. It needs a lot of tweaking, I think, but it's alright for a little study, I think. Neutral, and because I've squished everything. Yeah, no, let's not do the head squish. Yeah, the mouth is fine. We want the head to kind of feel stable. Maybe I just want to put like the pit of the neck and maybe a little bit of the clavicle. Just a little indication there. Yeah, Alejandro, Oliver Tree, that's terrible, right? Ben, what do you think of background story is? Not a clue. I haven't thought about it. She looks like an older version of Libby from Jimmy Neutron, will ya? You're not wrong, hey? I know exactly who you're talking about. Actually remembered someone who created a full short animated film by just using shape keys without any rig. Yeah, you can do that. Ben, never get in a helicopter. It's the yeah. There's no shot of me ever getting in a helicopter. Never, ever, never. And when the mouth goes back, it oftentimes, well, it depends on the person. It doesn't go out, kind of goes straight back, which gives you that crease in here. There's always a little cause and effect. And I'm thinking the jaw should maybe just shift. Ever so slightly. Is that Is that skeptical? Don't like the eye. You would have to tweak the eye placement a lot. Oh no, it was. Let's see if we can get rid of that. Okay, saved it. Something about the facial features here does remind me a little bit of Chris Tucker from The Fifth Element. I don't know if it's the hair as well, but that was not my intention. I feel like the eyes. Is she gonna look that way? What's the more natural way? The eyes going that way towards the mouth, maybe. That's what could be throwing me off. What's the eyedropper tool for color again? Is it A? No. S? No. Ah, what is it again? Shift X. Boom, Tomogi coming in clutch. Thank you, sir. All right, so now we can make some adjustments. There really would be a bottom lid. All right, underneath here. That's all right. What I'm thinking of adding. So more so, look, this feels a little bit more natural to me. Maybe not even that much. Maybe just. Yeah, I don't know. Could tweak this one for days. Because we're kind of faking that bottom lid at the moment. We could do it with just a bit of vertex paint underneath here. A little bit. Nah, she looks a bit crazy now. Yeah, no, right. I just tried it as well. Yeah, your eyes will follow whatever way you exactly. See, you're the best reference, you know. That's why all those old Disney animators they have mirrors at their desks. Just trying to find the cause and effect. Sometimes you've got, I think I have it, there's like an extra crease here that's not connected to anything. Sometimes happens. No, not on this character. See if we can sculpt in this bottom lid a little bit. No. Now the eyes, so she's looking here. Looks fine from the front view, but if you turn this around, so we can use a mask so it doesn't touch any of the eye. I want to mess around with the cheek. Pull that out and up. Yeah. It'll allow us to have that little crease there. Oh no, I did it. Oh no, we're still in the key, the shape key. That's all right. Okay, I could fiddle with this for a very, very, very long time. So I'm gonna call it a day, I reckon. Oh, it's a fun one. Good little experiment. Good challenge, working both our 2D and 3D brains. And as always, I thank you guys very much for popping in. For those that are new, this stream happens every week, 10:45 a.m. Australian Central Daylight Time, Standard Time, whatever it is. Whatever time this stream started is when it starts every week for you. So I think it's Sunday 5 or 6 p.m. PST for those people on the other side of the world. So yeah, hope you had some fun. Those in the chat that are keeping me company, having a chat, thank you very much. It was lovely talking. For those lurkers, I appreciate you just as much. And yeah, with that, I reckon I'll leave you to it. This is a fun one. I want to keep noodling on this, but I've got to stop myself because I've got to paint some plain Janes. That's what I've got to get doing. So I will see you guys next week. Have a great rest of your week. And yeah, I'll catch you then.